All right, and now we're just going to have that 30-second delay that Facebook is so famous for, and it's going to connect us to our mighty mystery fans on A Mighty Blaze. We can't wait to have you. And it looks like we are live. Welcome, mighty mystery fans. I'm your on-air host, Sarah DeVello, and I am thrilled to be hosting the absolutely incredible Dr. Ethan K. Smith, author of the Unspoken, out Thursday. Ian, welcome. Tell us about your book.
Thank you for having me. First of all, let me just say that I think that is amazing what you guys are doing. I read about why you guys started what you're doing, and it's so important. COVID has affected all of our lives in so many different ways. And one thing as an author and a writer and someone who likes to connect with his fans and readers is I was saying to myself, man, how are people going to be able to keep up with what's coming on? Because everyone can't go on TV. I'm blessed, I can, but everyone can't. So thank you for this really grassroots volunteer initiative to help us. It's great.
Oh my gosh, Ian, thank you so much. And thank you for coming on to chat with us today. We're so excited to host you. We're so excited to introduce you to our audience. And we're just so thrilled to have you here. We can't wait to talk about your process, your book, your writing, get into all the things from medical to mystery, and hear all about your brand new, because I'm a huge fan of police procedurals and detective fiction. And we want to hear all about Ashe Cayne. So give us the skinny.
Sure. Well, first of all, I'm a packager. I'm an author who likes the whole package, right? I just don't worry about the plot, though obviously that's important in the story. But I'm very involved, and here's the book. I'm very involved in the art, the graphics. I mean, I spent a lot of time thinking about it. So that's really important to me. And I think that a lot of authors, well, I should say a lot. Some authors say, well, we'll just let the publisher deal with that. But I think after you've worked on a book for so long and it's so personal to you, that you want to make sure it's wrapped in the paper and the gift wrap as best as possible. So anyway, I love the cover of the book. It's Chicago. The dark character is kind of like, you don't see who Ashe Cayne is. There's a reason for that, by the way. But basically, Ashe Cayne is a former detective from the Chicago Police Department who he's smart, he's handsome, he is in shape. He is a golf fanatic. He loves classic cars, and he has a bad romantic life. He got left by his fiancée at the altar, basically, and so he is really struggling to deal with that. So while he looks great on paper, internally he's kind of like a wreck. But anyway, he is a detective with Chicago Police Department. He decides not to participate in a cover-up of what police officers called a bad shooting. And he just says, I can't do it. I can't stand with the blue wall of silence. He leaves. He gets a nice settlement, so he's financially independent. And he goes out and decides, listen, just because I'm not a detective anymore doesn't mean I don't want to pursue justice and what's right. So he opens up his own PI shop, and he takes on very select cases in and around the city of Chicago. He's very picky, and he refuses most of them, but something just kind of itches him. He says, I got to take this case. And his first case is the case of a missing, wealthy North Shore Chicago girl. And North Shore is very affluent in Chicago, for those who don't know. And her very aristocratic mother comes to the south side of Chicago and says, I want you to help find my missing daughter.
Okay, well, I know I am on the edge of my seat, and I cannot wait to get into every bit of that. But before we go any further, I have to share just a few words of your absolutely incredible praise, because this book, out Thursday, is already earning incredible praise. It is already #1 on Amazon in police procedurals. Amazing accomplishment. It's not even out yet, and it's already #1. You received a rave review. You earned a rave review from Kirkus, and you know that don't come cheap. I think the New York Times called them notoriously cranky and curmudgeonly. So they did not see that here. They are raving with its huge, entertaining cast and smooth sleuth. This series kickoff recalls vintage Chandler or Hammett. Wow, amazing, amazing praise. Publishers weekly raving. This fine series launched from bestseller Smith introduces PI Ashe Cayne, a former Chicago PD detective. Ashe is just one of many well-drawn, multi-layered characters. Readers will eagerly await his return. Amazing. Harlan Coben chiming in with Ian Smith's The Unspoken is the start of a big, bold, original new series. Chicago PI Ashe Cayne is the perfect hero for our times. I can't wait to read his adventure. Harlan apparently speaking for all of us because I know we can't wait. So Ian, let's get right into your process. How do you write a book with earning praise from these reviewers for being multi-layered? How do you, let's get right into the characters. How do you write a multi-layered character that resonates with readers, that compels us to want to read more?
Well, first of all, let me just say that I typically don't read my reviews. And there's a reason why I don't do that. I think that the creative process is often a very lonely journey. And it's also a journey of self-exploration and then expression. And so when authors and artists say they don't read the reviews, it's not because they're putting down the reviewers. It's because unless you've walked in the steps of other people, it's hard to understand kind of the process. And, you know, I write in solitude by myself. I spend a lot of hours away from my family and friends trying to develop these characters. And so, you know, reviews, you know, you get 100 people, they have 100 different views of your works. So I don't read them. But that being said, to get those reviews from Kirkus and PW, which I hadn't read, but my team was so over the you know, so excited about it that they're like, oh my goodness, these are the most amazing reviews. So I'm very appreciative. But really my greatest review is readers liking it, like readers wanting more and liking the character. I have my favorite characters, and I think a character has to have multiple layers to it. You know, you don't want a two-dimensional character. You want a 10-dimensional character. You know, you want a character who, you know, has issues. And I don't say that in a negative way because we all have issues to some degree. Who really wants the perfect character? That's boring to me. I like characters that have some edge to them. They kind of shock you. They do something that cuts across what you expect from them. And so I love developing character, by the way. When I develop characters, I really think about what are the levels, you know, like I want to take you, the reader, on an exploration of this unique, we're all unique, this unique individual. So yes, this is a person who works at a gas station, but guess what? This person also does X, Y, Z and lives with this person and does this on Saturday, right? So you gotta make people have different dimensions to them. And I just think that that's part of good writing is character building. And by the way, sometimes though the main character is the star, sometimes the real stars are the sub characters, you know, because, you know, like in this case, Mechanic, who is the right-hand man of Ashe Cayne, everyone has said, oh my goodness, we love Mechanic. He is awesome. And you don't want your sub guy to outshine your main guy, but people fall in love, you know, with the side acts. And I think that's part of building good characters.
Okay, I love everything about that, the side acts. Also, you're addressing that the writing process is a very lonely road and it requires that solitude. It requires that stepping away from family and friends. It is, you know, it doesn't come just effortlessly in a crowd in the middle of, you know, a break of a Sunday afternoon. You really have to, there are sacrifices. And so I love that you know, that you're addressing that and that you honor the process and that you have such reverence for it. It's really, it's heart filling. And I love how you said, what does this guy do on a Saturday? And that's honestly a question that I've never thought about as a writer or as a reader. What are these people doing on a Saturday? I mean, it's such a brilliant question because it says so much about who they are.
Yeah, and I think that, you know, I think that readers really can connect when they find something of their own experience in a character. So even if the character is really wealthy, but the character is pissed off because there's traffic on Park Avenue, and even though they're in a Rolls Royce and you're in a cab, they're experiencing the same frustrations that traffic heading down south on Park Avenue in New York City is bumper to bumper. People relate to that. So there's a way to draw readers into a character by giving the characters characteristics or situations that are relatable.
Wow, Ian, you are just opening up a whole new brain space for me, because this is so true. It's so true. And I often struggle with, how do you make characters relatable? How, what do people relate to? What do they connect with? These are questions that sort of keep me awake at night. And I love how you think about it, and how, exactly as you said, like whether it's someone in a limousine or someone in the back of an Uber, they're both stuck at that red light, blood pressure pounding, it's stressful. I love that. And we're getting lots of likes. Carol saying, what a great question about what your characters do on Saturday and how they relate. Gail saying, this is a great gift wrapped book. Gail, totally agree. I just want to welcome everyone who's watching on Facebook. You guys know how this works. This is your time with the author. So if you've got questions for Dr. Ian about his process, about his characters, I love what you said about getting involved in the creative process. Just type them in the chat box. I'll get them right over to him. This is your time to ask him anything you'd love to know about his characters, about his praise, about anything. So let's get into it. Tell us also where you're watching from. I love knowing where people are tuning in from. One of the very few good things about this pandemic is we've gone global, and we have so many people who aren't geographically limited now, just joining us from all over, which is fantastic. So
Can
Ian,
I add
love
something?
that you're. Oh, please.
Yeah. For example, I love The Crown, this on Netflix, the series The Crown. Love it. And what I like about watching The Crown is not all the royal pageantry. What I like about it is when I'm looking at the basic things that the queen does, how the queen, gets dressed, or how she takes her meals or reads the paper. I mean, when you see the characters do things that are mundane, but you're not accustomed to seeing them do mundane things, because you think about the queen, you think about her doing nothing. It's almost like you think that everyone is doing everything for her, but she drives her own car. I mean, watching the queen drive a car is fantastic. And I think, so when I think of characters, I think about how I like to see characters and how I like for those characters to be accessible.
First of all, I also love The Crown. I did not know that you were a fan. This is good insight into the character of Dr. Ian K. Smith. We're learning how he spends his Saturdays, apparently watching The Crown.
Absolutely.
And I also have I've also wondered all those things. How does she drive herself ever? And it is fantastic to watch her. I saw a photo the other day of the actual queen driving a car at the age of 94. I mean, look at her go. Amazing.
Isn't that great? I love that.
It really is. It's so great. Oh my gosh. I want to hear all about your creative process and your involvement in that, because so many authors do say, that they don't get involved, but we have our questions are starting to bubble up over Facebook. Megan asking, Ian, how does your expertise in health and fitness fold into your fiction writing? Megan, you're reading my mind, because I want to know that too. How do these multiple sides of Ian work?
Well, you ready for this? I think that the way it works is that because health and fitness is so regimented and so organized and so disciplined, that it makes me a disciplined writer. So it doesn't affect the content of what I write, but it affects my process. I'm a very disciplined writer. I'm a very consistent writer. And even when I may not feel like writing, or I'm not having a great day of being creative, I keep pushing through. And that's what fitness is all about. There's some days you wake up, you don't want to go to the gym. And the question is, can you say to yourself, you know what? I may not do 30 minutes today, let me do 20 minutes today. And so for me, my experience as a health advocate for a long time and a fitness enthusiast for a long time really makes me a disciplined writer. It makes me more efficient. I'm an efficient writer, which means that when I sit down, I write very voluminously. I write a lot, because I don't have 8 hours every day to write. I have a lot of other things going on. And so when I sit to my computer, I want to make sure that I use all my time as efficiently as possible. So in fact, what I do is, I never heard anyone else do this, but maybe someone does. I write all my stories in my head first. I don't outline my stories. And I see stories as movies. And so I visualize the characters, what they look like. I visualize where they're going, and I see the book as a collection of scenes, and it's all in my head. When I feel like I have the blueprint of the book, not all the answers, but the blueprint, then I sit down and start going into the computer, because now I have enough thoughts bottled up in my head for it to flow very easily. So I'm never short of ideas. I'm never sitting at a blank screen saying, I don't know where I'm going to go, because really it's in my head first.
Wow. Okay. I have never heard that. I'm also a super visual person. So I also see things visually. I see them in scenes, and then I try to transcribe what I'm seeing. But I don't have the brain space to see the entire thing. So wow, that's amazing. Let's talk a little. Okay. So first of all, who do you visualize as Ashe Cayne? Who's going to play him on the big screen?
Well, there's an actor named Boris Kojo, who physically fits Ashe Cayne. There's a former comedian for SNL. His name is Finesse Mitchell. He was on SNL for several seasons. I've talked to him. He would like to play Ashe Cayne. And there's another guy who did the audio book. The audio is available too. His name is Amir Abdullah. This is the audio, by the way. I just got this 2 days ago. It's so exciting. Even this is my 19th book, and it never gets old when you either get the first copy of the book or the first copies of the audio sent to you in the mail, and you open the box. On my Instagram, if you guys are Instagram, my Instagram is at Dr. Ian Smith. Spell the doctor out, I-A-N Smith. You'll see me opening up my box of audios. But Amir Abdullah, who voiced this, is someone else I think could play Ashe Cayne.
So when you were writing, were you visualizing these guys, or only since now? And by the way, you guys have to go watch his unboxing video. I watched it. I commented the other day. There is such joy because Ian's right. There is nothing like that unboxing moment. Apparently, even if you're on book 19, I'm still working on book number 2. So I'm glad to know the joy doesn't end at ever. But you have to go watch the joy of this man unboxing his videos, and the link to his Instagram is in the comments. So were you visualizing these guys, or that's only coming after?
Yeah, I visualize all characters because I like to describe the characters. And so I had an idea of what Ashe Cayne looked like. And he was a composite of these guys that I mentioned, but also the other guys like Rory Burke, the commander, Rory Burke, who's this big Irish police commander, very stocky, barrel chest, red cheeks, ruddy complexion, speckled hair. So yeah, I have to see my characters visually. Because when I see them visually, it lets me describe them, because I want you, the reader. I think that when readers are able to visualize the character and the scene, whether it's in the restaurant, in the car, driving by a house, I think that when you can see it yourself, it makes it a much more enjoyable experience.
Absolutely. Absolutely agree. Now let's get back to the regimented routine that you adhere to, both as a fitness specialist and as a writer, which I totally resonate with because I'm a yoga teacher. So do you just wake up at 5 a.m. and shred pages? I mean, what does it actually look like? Are you a morning writer? Are you a night writer? Do you write for a certain amount of time and you will not leave that seat until you've met that time? Or is it a word count thing? What's your process like? Walk us through
So
that.
I typically work out in the morning. I love early mornings. Everyone's asleep except for the other side of the world. So no one's bothering me with emails and texts. So I like to work out first thing. But when I write, if I'm in my zone, so that I have different phases of writing. I have exploratory writing where I'm just sitting down in the beginning and getting my thoughts on paper. And then I have zone writing where I have momentum. And when I get into my zone phase, that's when I'm really productive. So I will write for certain hours in the morning, take a break, certain hours in the evening or afternoon, evening, and then sometimes take a nap and work after midnight. So when I write in a zone, there is no clock. I may be going to sleep at 4 o'clock in the afternoon for a couple of hours and wake up at 6 and be up for 10 hours. It really is about the flow of information, the flow of ideas into the computer. One thing I learned, I think it was Robert Parker I read, great writer, by the way. And Robert Parker said he never got up from the computer when he was out of thoughts. he always got up before he ran out of thoughts. So at least he had something to write when he sat down again. So he always stopped himself short creatively and said, I'm gonna save a little bit for my next session. So now I got something to go with. And I think that's what I'd like to do also, is I always, I always want to know where I'm gonna go tomorrow. But yeah, I'd like to, for me, it's not word count or hours, it's page count. So I set goals of how many pages I want to crank out a day when I'm in my zone, and it works for me.
And what is your page count goal? Does it vary or it's always the same?
Yeah, no, it varies. I would say that, and anywhere between 5 and 10 pages a day.
Okay.
Sometimes it can be 15. Some days the most I've done is like 21 pages in a day. But that's because I was in such a zone. Zone writing is, it's like in sports, they talk about being in the zone.
Yeah.
Like Michael Jordan, the great basketball player, would say that when he was in a zone, that the rim, the basketball rim, looked like it was 8 feet wide, and anything he threw up there would go in. That's just zoning. Golf players say the same thing, that, they're putting on the green to put the ball in the hole, and the cup, which is what the ball falls into, looks like it's a foot wide. It's only obviously about 3 to 4 inches. But the idea is, when you get into a zone, that kind of focus, everything looks easier, and it's like you can't miss. So there are times where I'll write 15 pages in a day because I'm just in a zone.
I love that. I've also read that when football players are in the zone and they are either throwing or getting ready to receive a pass, that time slows down and they don't feel it as a matter of nanoseconds or even actual seconds. It feels endless. Time expands. And when you're in the zone writing, it can feel like that too. Like you can blink at the clock. Where did that hour go? Whereas if you're struggling, every second seems like an hour. Do you ever get stuck, Ethan? And what do you, Ian, if you get stuck, what do you do? Or you don't get stuck?
I don't get stuck, knock on wood. I've never had writer's block. Now I'm jinxing myself. But I've never had writer's block. Yeah, I've never had writer's block. So I don't get stuck. I guess there are times when I'm trying to take a character somewhere, and I got to figure out, the character's at A, we got to get to E, but the question is, do I go to B, C, D, then E, or do I go to B, then jump to D, then E? So sometimes I may have some deliberation where I'm sitting down thinking, okay, and what I'll do is I'll get up from the computer and I'll do something non-related to writing just to clear my head and to think about, how are we going to get the character to this particular point in the story? And so that happens often, but it's not a block. It's just trying to, because mysteries and suspense are a little challenging to write because it's all about sequence. It's all about plot sequence. It's about leaving clues, but not too many clues. It's about innuendo, right? So sometimes the work really is trying to figure out, how can I get the character or the story to this point in a way that will engage the reader and inform the reader, but not too much.
Exactly. And that's something I also struggle with is, you don't want to give it away on page 2, but you don't want to get to page 300 and people say, where the heck did that come from? And it's such it's a fine balance. I want to get back to that. Another question from the audience, Carol, wondering, did you always want to be a writer? Also, I was wondering that because here you are, host of The Doctors, Emmy award-winning daytime talk show, but here you are writing your third mystery and receiving incredible acclaim. Did you always want to be both, or did you secretly always just want to be a writer? What's that like?
It's a great question, by the way. I just told one of my sons today, I said, listen, here's the thing. Because he said he was writing something. I said, you didn't let me read it. He said, I'm not a writer. Your dad, you're a professional writer. I'm not a writer. I said, whoa. You are a writer. I said, in fact, you write much better than I did when I was your age. And here's the thing. In the old days, people looked at careers as being binary. You're either going to do this or you're going to do that. You're not going to do both. And so when I grew up, it was like you choose what your lane is. If you're going to be a scientist and a mathematician and a biologist, you head into medicine. If you are going to be someone who likes art or writing, you go in this direction. But you weren't allowed to do both. You got to choose one or the other. And I just thought that that was that was a false premise. Why do I have to choose? I can be left and right brain. I've never seen any scientific study that says that you can't be both brained if you want to be. And so as a kid, I did what I wanted to do. I've always loved stories. Since I was a kid, I loved reading. I was a bibliophile since I was young. I love the power of stories. I love the excitement of stories. I love the scariness of some stories. So even as a kid, I always thought, man, it would be cool to be an author. However, everyone knew me, even as a kid, as a science guy, because I loved science. I was very curious. I loved math and all this stuff. So as I pursued my science track to becoming a doctor, I really hid my love for creating story, because if I felt like if I did that, then they wouldn't take me seriously about being a science guy, because the world didn't see us working that way. So I finally said when I was in college, who cares? I like to write. I was never formally trained to be a writer, but I'm a great storyteller, and I pay attention to detail, and I love reading. I think to be a good writer, you have to love reading, and all kinds of stories you got to love to read. And so I finally decided, you know what? I'm going to be a doctor, and yes, I can be a writer, and I can write diet books, and I can also write mysteries. Who says I can't do both? That's just kind of my attitude on life. Follow your passion.
Oh, I love that. I love that. I mean, you're so ahead of your time, because I feel like only now we're starting to talk about the idea of a quote slash career, that you can be a doctor slash writer, that you can be, on TV slash mystery author, cooking up these police procedurals for us. But that's a very new concept, and people still aren't fully comfortable with it. So it sounds like you got there very soon, much sooner than everybody else. And we're very comfortable and confident in that. Because I think the other thing too is there's certain cultural values here ascribed to being a doctor, and there's a certain cultural respect, and there's a certain deference, and like, oh, you're a doctor, that means X, Y, and Z. Whereas if you're a writer, it's very different. And also because the measures of success are so easily visible when you're a doctor. It's like, well, do you wear a white coat? Do you have an office? Do you have a stethoscope around your neck? Right. Check. Right. Okay. You're a real doctor. But if you're a writer, you may struggle for years to get published. And so it isn't, that immediately visible as hallmarks of success, or you don't really know when you've quote made it, so it is, I feel almost, it's riskier. It's hard to put yourself out there and say, I'm going to write and this is me. Did you feel any of that?
I think that, in the old days, which was kind of sad. And as a kid, I realized this. I used to like to talk to older people when I was a kid, by the way, because I always believed that I would be able to learn a lot from them and to be able to create my vision, my life vision, based on their experiences, because they lived it. So why not ask them, how was it? What would you do again? So as a kid, I was always talking to older people, right? And one thing that I thought was very sad was, why do you have to choose one career? You get a job, you work for 35 years, you retire, you get Social Security, and that's it. And I said to myself, wow, I can't imagine only doing one thing for 35 years. There's so many things I want to do. Life is short. I got one shot at this thing. So why do I only, and no matter how much fun I was having doing that one thing, but there are other things I want to do. I want to play guitar. I want to act. There are all kinds of things that I wanted to do. So I just said, yeah, I want to be a doctor, but I also want to be a writer. I want to be on TV. Let me try to make it work. It didn't always work in the sense of they weren't always in sync and people were doubtful, but who cares? It's my life. I have one life and I'm going to try whatever I want. If I fail, I fail. If I succeed, great. But my success is in trying, not necessarily the validation that comes from external parties.
Oh, I love that, Ian. I love that. And as a kid, I loved talking to older people too. I was so close to my grandmother. I talked to her every single day of my life, up until and including the day that she passed. There's such a wisdom and wonderfulness about elders. I want to talk more about that, but I got to get over to this next question from our audience. Gail Roosevelt, one of our top community members, is saying, assuming that there are only 24 hours in a day, how does Ian do everything he does? Gail, you're reading my mind, because this man is hosting the Emmy Award-winning show, The Doctors. He's writing all these best-selling police procedurals. He's a dad. Ian, how do you do it all?
I'm asked that a lot, and I think the two things. One is I am an extremely good compartmentalizer. I can really put things into a compartment and they don't leak from one compartment to the next. So when I'm on set and doing the doctors, I am there, I am present. When I am off that set and I'm doing something else, I am there. So I think the ability to be present in whatever I am in and to compartmentalize. And, if I'm having a bad day in the studio, I don't let it affect me at the computer when I'm trying to write. And I think that's been very effective for me. The other part of it is I'm a sportsman, I'm an athlete. And I think that I'm able to push myself. I'm able to go hard, as we say in sports. And I respect my body. So when I'm tired, I pass out. But I have lots of energy. I eat really well. I exercise a lot. And I just love life. I'm a very optimistic person. And I really try. And I also try to be smart. I tell my team, you know, you got to work sometimes not harder, smarter. We already work hard. Now we got to work smarter. And smarter means being efficient, being organized. All those things are important. So I think that I'm able to make it because I do those things. And I also try not to bite off more than I can chew. And that's important. I had to realize about 10 years ago that I have bandwidth. No matter how hard I work, I have bandwidth like anybody else. And if I take on too much, it's outside my bandwidth. So you have to start delegating certain things that, are taking away from the things you want to do. Writing is my love. Being on TV, my family, those are my loves. And so I have to prioritize those things. And some of the other things I have to say, I don't have time for, or maybe someone else can do it.
Oh, I love that, Gail. I hope that answered your question. I know it answered mine, because you're so clear. So thank you for that. And Ian, I want to get back to something you started off saying, that you are involved in the creative production of your books. And a lot of authors that we have on here don't care so much. I care very deeply when authors say, "Oh, that's not my strong suit." I just let them, put whatever cover on. And I think that's the face of your baby. How can you do it? So I love that you are involved. That resonates with me. Tell us the story of this cover, the Chicago skyline. You can see Ashe, but you can't really see Ashe. Walk us through the creative process.
Well, first of all, since this is the introductory book to the series, the Ashe Cayne series, and it's a Chicago-based series, I thought it was really important to have something that was the hallmark of Chicago. And while there are many beautiful cities in the world, and I've been to a lot of them, and many beautiful skylines, Chicago is one of the most beautiful skylines in the world. Trust me when I tell you that. And I just thought that we have to have the skyline of Chicago on this cover. And I also wanted to be a clean cover. And I thought that because a lot of this story, the series, takes place in the gritty streets of Chicago, I wanted to have a little bit, I don't want to say darkness, but a little bit kind of like a little edge to it. And I just think that when the designer thought of having the back of a person overlooking the city skyline, that to me just says it all. And you don't see his face, but you see he's dressed in a very cool way. And I just think that this is who Ashe Cayne is, and this is who the series is. So I was very happy with it. And the title I came up with, I'm very big into titles, by the way. I think they have to grab you. And so I worked really hard. This wasn't the first title. It was a title I came up with later, but I think you have to find the right title that is not only eye-grabbing to readers, but also has real relevance to the plot.
I absolutely love the title. So what were some of the other titles that ended up on the cutting room floor? Can you tell us?
Well, yeah, the one I really liked, and I still like it, I wish I could use it somewhere, it was called The Flight of the Butterfly.
The Flight of the Butterfly.
Yeah,
Tell us the story of that.
Well, I liked it because I don't want to give away too much about the book, but the nickname for one of the characters is Butterfly. Her boyfriend called her Butterfly. And so I like the idea, the play on Flight of the Butterfly. And you say, oh, I'm thinking of Butterfly, but it's really the flight of this character. So it's Flight of the Butterfly. I don't know, it just sounded nice to me and it resonated. But, it's a collaborative process in publishing. And they said, well, do you have something else that may kind of, define it better? And so I came up with the Unspoken.
Well, I absolutely love the Unspoken because it has the feel of that gritty Chicago police procedural detective fiction that we are all here for. So it gives you that sense of it, just like the cover gives you the sense of it. So I just feel like the title and the cover are so important because it's that introduction to the audience. So you've talked about how to be a great writer, you've got to be a great reader. Who are some of your favorite authors? Who do you admire?
Oh wow, that's easy. I love Harlan Coben. He's great. Um, I'll never forget reading Tell No One. I met him at a Christmas party, and I was not published yet in fiction, but I wanted to be. And I met him, so I was kind of like, oh my goodness, like I'm talking to and I hadn't read him before. I didn't know who he was, and he wasn't who he is now as far as his success and stature. But he sent me this book called Tell No One, and boy, he sent it to me at work. I was at NBC News at the time, and I couldn't stop reading it. So Harlan's great. Lee Child and Jack Reacher. I've been reading him. I met Lee Child many years at Book Expo, BEA, Book Expo America, one of my favorite events. I met him, and he was not, this is way back before Persuader. This is way back, early Jack Reacher. And he was great to talk to, and I loved his story. He's a guy from Britain. He had actually been a director at NBC, so he had several careers and decided to become a writer. That inspired me also. One of my favorite writers, unfortunately, is no longer here, Henning Mankell, who is the Swedish detective writer. He writes police procedural in Sweden. And his guy's name is Wallander, which is just absolutely fantastic. The books are great. In fact, I may go back and read some of those. I like Dennis Lehane. I think he's great. Walter Mosley, some of his early to mid stuff was fantastic. And another one of my authors who unfortunately is gone, a guy named Dominic Dunn. I used to love his writing. So those are the guys who I look forward to them coming out. Those are still writing every year. And Robert Parker obviously was a master at what he did. And so those are my writers.
Oh, and it's such a great, I love the depth and breadth of that stable that you look up to, really spanning the realm of writing and bringing so much to the table, for, in different ways, both in the mystery realm. Just wow. People are saying they love the Chicago skyline as well. Lots of comments here. We totally agree. So Ian, what do you want people to walk away from this book having felt, having learned, having experienced?
I want people to walk away from this book really feeling aware of Chicago, number one. Chicago is a character in the book. And by that, I mean that I take you through the neighborhoods of Chicago. I put you on the ground. I take you to the restaurants that Chicagoans go to. I give you the history of the city, the history of why the neighborhoods are the way they are. You go to the affluent north side, to the gritty areas of the south side, to the downtown, to the wealthy Gold Coast. You're going to be all over Chicago, from the lake to the west side. And so I want people to enjoy, those who've not been to Chicago. I want you to learn about this really cool city that's a flyover city between New York and LA. And everyone kind of has an assumption about Chicago. So I hope to open it up to you realistically. But I also want you to love a character who really has this moral compass where he's got to do what's right. And he can't let wrong sit unattended. He has to do something about it. And that is just who he is. He's not perfect. He has his flaws like anybody else, but you root for him because you know he's a good guy, and he's tough. And I hope people really fall in love with the characters and with the city of Chicago as being a great place for all this action to take place.
Well, based on the fact that you are already #1 in your genre and your book isn't even out yet, I think that is fair to say that is going to happen and is happening, because you're doing it so well. And I love that you talk about the city as a character. And I think the first time I really heard someone say that was about the Sex and the City series, as the city was the fifth character. And I love that because because you really can convey so much. Did you go to Chicago? What was your research process like? Were you walking every step that Ashe Cayne walked? Tell us about that.
So I went to med school in Chicago. and have lived in Chicago. And so I knew Chicago very well, have friends, have a place in Chicago still. So I think that it's just kind of the stuff that I know. And even being in Chicago for so many years, even I don't know all of it. I mean, it's a big city. It's a lot of people here in a lot of places. And so even I learn about restaurants, you know, and we have so many different areas, Wrigleyville, you know, Old Town, the West Loop, the South Loop, Lincoln Park. I mean, it's all over the place. So it's really a fun city. And each book, I want to take readers to different parts of the city so you can get the feel, the pulse of the city. I think that's what's exciting.
Oh, I love that. And I can't wait to read it because I've been to Chicago several times, but I have not really gotten a sense of that city. So I look forward to getting to know it better through your pages. And guys, I know I'm going to be reading this book the day it comes out, which is the day after tomorrow, Thursday, October 1st. So I already have had lots of people DMing me and telling me they can't wait to read it too. So we should probably have a little book club. We'll get together and we'll talk about it online because I know we're all going to love it. So if you want to be part of that, DM me, comment on the link. Ian, what is one thing that you wish that I had asked or that you would like to share with us today that I haven't asked yet?
I just think that stories and books are important. And I think, unfortunately, they've gotten diminished in all that's going on and all of the divisiveness in the world and all these different crises we're facing. I just want to tell readers to hold on to books and love books. Stories are wonderful. Stories make you feel good. They can make you cry. They make you laugh. They can empower you. They can anger you. They give you all the emotions, which is important. And so I just want people to still, you know, be a lover of books, be a lover of the word and how an author can turn a phrase. There's nothing wrong with that. You can still deal with the other realities of life, but there's nothing wrong with getting lost in a world that may not be your world or a world you're interested in. So that's what I hope. I hope that my books will do what reading has done for me and other authors. They've made me feel good. They've made me just want to shut everything off and just be with the words on those pages. That's really influenced my life, and I hope to do the same thing.
Oh my God. Dr. Ian Smith closing us out with just heart-filling poetic prose. I absolutely love that. And yes, they give us a window into worlds that are not our own and let us step into shoes that are not our own and walk a mile in those shoes and feel them and experience them. And I have learned so much from books and I can't wait to keep learning. And you could not have whatever I could say, it could not possibly be more poetic or more heartfelt or heart-filling than that. Dr. Ian Smith, I want to thank you so very much for coming on A Mighty Blaze. You have been an absolutely incredible guest, and we are so grateful for you. Congratulations on your 19th book, your third mystery. We can't wait to have you back for the next one. Congratulations, and we can't wait to meet and love Ashe Cayne as much as you do.
Thanks. And anyone who does a book club, I don't mind. I love speaking to book clubs. So if someone puts a book club together, send me a message. I'd love to come talk to you guys.
All right, you heard it here first. We're doing a book club. Ian's gonna come talk to us. Drop it in the comments, and this is gonna happen. We're gonna have an online book club, and you heard it here. He's gonna come talk to us. It's gonna be amazing. So, Dr. Ian K. Smith, thank you again for joining us, and we will see you next time here on A Mighty Blaze. Congratulations again. We're so excited for your book.
Thank you so much. See you.